Good morning and happy Tuesday. Sorry I'm not there with you, but we're going to get this chapter 9, lesson 1 going. So for social studies today, you're reading the lesson 1 PDF, which is posted in chapter 9. You should have done your vocab people. There's no places, just your vocab and people yesterday was part of your assignment after your chapter 8 test. And I'm going to go over with you this first section and what you should be doing, okay, to take notes. So Americans and the Revolution is where we're starting. You're going to pull that up. You can listen, follow along if you can. It says, you are there. In 1777, hundreds of British soldiers are marching by your house in New Jersey. The stomping of their boots scares you, and your mother pulls you and your little brother close. For 3 months, your father has been away fighting in the Continental Army. While he has been gone, your mother has been running the family's printing business. This was very common then. So a lot of the fathers were gone, but they still needed money, so the moms would take over. Sometimes the children would help with the businesses to keep them running. Outside, the last of the British soldiers are passing by. Their coats make a line of red across the street. Don't worry, you whisper to your brother. We'll beat them. You'll see. All right, personal hardships. So think about already the hardships they're facing just from that first little intro, okay? The moms are left to do all of the housework, take care of the kids, and run the business or try to bring money in for the family so they can survive, while the fathers have left their families and gone out to fight this battle. So let's see what else they mention. Personal hardships. The Declaration of Independence showed that colonial leaders had united against Britain, but the colonists themselves were deeply divided. Many had to decide whether to support independence or to stay loyal to the British king, taking sides. Colonists who supported the independence called themselves patriots. Those who remained loyal to the king were called loyalists. About 1/3 of the colonists stayed neutral or did not choose sides. So you have 3 sides here. You have the patriots, who were fighting for independence. You have the loyalists, who were staying loyal to the king, and then you have those that really tried to just stay out of it, and they were the neutral party. As people took sides, friendships and families were sometimes broken apart. Church groups were also divided. Taking sides was especially hard for members of the Anglican Church, also called the Church of England. The king was the head of their church. Colonists faced other hardships too. Often their towns were robbed and destroyed by the British Army. In 1776, for example, British soldiers burned many areas of New Jersey. They even stole beds from colonists' houses. In turn, patriots often took goods from the loyalists. In some cases, patriots destroyed their own belongings to keep them from the British. Others burned their crops so that the British could not get them for food. So down here, I'm going to make this one bigger here. Down here below each section, and we've talked about these. I'm going to slide you in. Okay, we've talked about these reading checks. That's what you're looking for to help your reading. It kind of helps you summarize the information we just read. So this one is a cause and effect question. Something happened as a result, something else was going to happen. It says, how did the war affect some colonial families? So here's my question. I'm going to go back to, now I have the Word document. You have your notebook. Oh, where's my Word at? There it is. And I'm going to type at the top, Chapter 9, Lesson 1 notes. That's what you should call yours. In your notebook, on your next page, next to your vocab and people that you did yesterday. And then down here, Section 1, Personal Hardships. And then we slide that over here. We're going to go back to the text and we're going to talk about some things here that were personal hardships. So take a minute, skim back through, see what you can come up with. Think about some of the personal hardships those colonial families faced, whether they were loyalists or patriots. Which one? What did they face? All right, so they had a war, right, that was happening. And they mentioned disagreements between families, so it was tearing families apart. Tearing families apart. They were burning their own crops, so they didn't have to give them to the British. They destroyed belongings. So those are all things that would make life difficult, okay, for that first section. So those are some things you might have written down. Just trying to fix my spacing there. Underneath that first, personal hardships, okay? I come down here. I'm going to turn the page. And I see economic hardships. So think about that word, economic, and what it means. We've talked a lot about that word, and I said we'll keep seeing it. So the economy of a place, of a colony here in this case, how were these colonies as a whole affected? Remember, they had that government in place to help keep them united, but colonies are also affected. And you'll see here, I slide that out of the way and I come to this page. I'm going to scroll down. Here's our economic hardships. You're going to read that, and then you have here reading check. How did inflation affect people during the Revolutionary War? Inflation was a vocab word that you should have included in your vocabulary, as well as profiteering. So how did inflation affect them? Okay, and maybe think about too, why did inflation happen? So write that answer down for that section. Okay, and then your next one will be women and the war. It also has down here a reading check. You have African Americans free and enslaved, and you have a reading check down there for that one. People in the West, and your last reading check for this lesson. Okay, so that's what you're going to be working on. We did the first section together, the personal hardships. You're going to read the remaining of lesson 1, taking some notes. You can add additional notes. You might find some things that are important as you're reading. Jot those down, but make sure you're answering these questions, these reading check questions. Those are what we're going to definitely talk about tomorrow to review this lesson before giving you your assignment for lesson 1. Okay, so lesson 1 notes, get those finished up using the reading check questions. Make sure your vocab and people are all up to date and you have all those people written down, as well as the vocab words defined. And that is today's assignment. You are not submitting your notes for Chapter 9, Lesson 1 today. Do not submit.